Bonjour à tous.
So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final of the Smart Port Challenge 2020. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. I hope you can see me as well. So, first of all, just a few explanations before we start. Just as a reminder, this webinar, can you see me? So, I was explaining that we're going to make this webinar available in French and in English. So if you want to follow this webinar in English, all you have to do is go to the browser bar in Zoom and click on the world, the globe, and you'll be able to follow in English if you so wish, and you won't be lost. So, first and foremost, I'd just like to say congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to all of the challenges, more than 500 participants. You submitted a whole host of projects, so I'd like to congratulate you for arriving to the final home straight, this final today. So we're here together today, and once again, I'd just like to repeat congratulations to all of you. Just a quick run through the agenda for today's session. We're going to remind you of the rules of the challenge, and then finally we're going to look at the final demonstrations, the 7 finalists, and then the jury will deliberate in another room, and we will leave you with a few video playlists to help you wait, and then we'll have the closing ceremony, and we'll announce the winners, and then we'll close this challenge. Just as a quick reminder, please continue to tweet if you have any comments to make. Go to hashtag #SmartPortChallenge2020 to tweet, and you'll be able to talk about what you feel. So you've communicated a lot over the past few weeks, so continue to do so today. So you will also be able to use the QR code to take photos, and don't hesitate to post them on Instagram. It will always be great to see your reactions on the platform. So the hackathon in general, because we've spent more than 6 weeks together now, just to give you a few key figures. 7 challenges, so you can see 40 mentors and more than 500 participants. I think at one point we ended up with 600, and then we had 73 projects on the platform, and it was very difficult for the jury to decide, and 7 finalists, and then finally 3 winners who are going to win the first prizes, the first 3 prizes for the Smart Port Challenge. Once again, thank you to all of our official sponsors who have supported this challenge, and also thank you to all of our other partners. We have 3 main sponsors and all of these other partners who you can see on the screen here. So it was thanks to them that this challenge was able to take place. So thank you so much for your help and support. Also, a big thank you to our super mentors who've been present throughout the challenge, more than 78 mentors in total. So that's a great number. They've sponsored and supervised all of the 7 challenges, and also they've carried out more than 108 interviews. We had 27 webinars and more than 30 hours of coaching. So once again, thanks Super Mentors. You've been so present and so available throughout the entire challenge. And also thank you on behalf of the participants. A big thank you to all of the challenge juries who've spent 3 days scoring these projects. As I said, there were 73 projects in total, so more than 70 jury members, 10 hours of meetings to finally shortlist these 7 finalists. So thank you so much for your help, and thank you for having taken the time and spent your time deliberating on these projects. And this is what's enabled us to shortlist the 7 finalists for today. So the final demonstrations, how is this going to work? So let me explain the rules of the final demonstrations and the rules of the challenge. You know that at the end of the day, we will have prize winners who will be able to start developing their prototypes and their proof of concepts. They'll be working in a real life situation. And for those of you who already work in businesses and who work for startup companies, we will be offering you this possibility to start work. And for the 3 prize winners, they will receive 100,000 Moroccan dinar. So a lot of support, financial support, but above all, mentoring support, and you'll have a new playing field to be able to present your products and prototypes. So to this end, to be able to lay claim to this final prize, you'll have 5 minutes to present and pitch your projects, and then you'll have 5 minutes questions and answers with the jury. So I'm going to ask each of the participants and each of the finalists to respect these 5 minutes, and I'm going to let you finish your sentence, but I won't go any further. We have this precise timer, so please stick to the 5 minutes, and the same for the jury. Please can you stick to the 5 minutes questions and answers, because we don't want to run over late. Just a quick reminder, what were the criteria for selection? So basically, the idea is to provide a service to customer bases and to the community. The idea is to have a community spirit which is of interest to all, support stakeholders. And also in the webinars, we were able to explain the clear needs of each challenge. So you had to respond to these needs. So the projects had to be business geared and trade geared. So the aim was really to improve services to businesses, reduce risks, and or optimize the time and the cost of international trade. Also, this project has to be innovative and sustainable to resolve concrete problems, and also to adopt a long-term approach to respect for the environment. And finally, propose added value for the clients of the port community. So let me start again, because I made a mistake. So these I said 100,000 Moroccan dirham. So sorry about that. I made a slight mistake with regard to the currency, says the speaker. So welcome to the jury. The jury is present on this Zoom conference. There are many members of the jury, so they're going to follow your presentations and to question you and deliberate on the project. So welcome. So I'm going to show them here. I'm not going to name them all individually because that would be too long. So welcome to all of you. You've got the very difficult task of following each of these projects and also scoring these projects. So welcome to all of you. I hope that you've been able to access the platform easily. I hope that all is well, and I hope that you're ready and raring to go for this final home straight. So now it's time for the final demonstrations. I hope that everybody is ready. So this is the running order. So the first team is going to be Aquasafe. So Aquasafe, this is going to be a first time for them. They're going to be presenting in English. For those of you who are already on the English channel, it won't change anything. You'll be able to continue following in English. But for all of the participants who are French speakers, I'd like to invite you to click on the globe at the bottom of your screen and select French, and you'll be able to follow Aquasafe in French. So that will be translated simultaneously, and then we'll meet later on for the follow-up with JeFile, which I'd like to ask to prepare. Can you hear me?
Je te laisse partager ton écran.
I'll let you share your screen, if you can share your screen, please. And as soon as you're ready, I'm going to start the timer.
Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Perfect. You are all good and ready.
Okay.
And there we go.
So,
Start.
yeah. Okay, thanks. So, hello, everyone. My name is Pedro Galvão. I work at a company called Hidromod, and I'll be presenting a product called Aquasafe that applied to something to oil spill simulation. So, very quickly, sorry. So, what is the problem? So, the problem this product tries to address is oil spills near harbors. So, currently, there is technology to try and forecast spill evolution and even backtracking. And there's a lot of free data online with Copernicus programs and others that can give us free metocean conditions and even satellite imagery. However, simulation requires a model expert usually, so it takes time. So you need to gather data and run the simulations. And also data sources are very dispersed. So you have AISs, cameras, operational models, SARS imagery, but all of this is scattered. So what was our solution? So we developed this product called Aquasafe Oil Spill Simulation. And the first thing it does is that it aggregates all the relevant sources in a single solution. So you don't have to look around for them, because that's something that you don't want to be doing during a time of crisis. And the second thing is allow non-modeling experts to evaluate the evolution of spills. And this non-modeling means that you need to have some knowledge of the processes involved, but you don't need to know what's the Lagrangian model or something like that to perform the simulation. And having said that, I'll do a quick live demo of the product in action. So this is a sample application we did close to the port of Valencia in Spain. And the first thing you see is that the product has already gathered the metocean conditions here. I won't go much into detail about that, but all of that has already been acquired by the system. It can also acquire SARS imagery. So the advantage of SARS image has been applied for quite some time to detect oil spills. Since they're not as sensitive to clouds as the other satellite imagery. And let's say, for instance, let's suppose that's not the case, that this would be an oil spill. So the operator can just quickly either draw a point or a polygon around the area where he thinks the oil spill is happening. I'll use a polygon here. So let's just say that this would be my possible oil slick. Once that is done, we can just ask it to run a simulation, and the wizard is just three very simple steps. So the first one is where the spill is. In this case, it's a polygon, so it doesn't display the coordinates. The second one is what is the time interval that we want to run, and if we want to go back in time or forward in time. So either way, the spill will get bigger because uncertainty gets bigger even when we are doing the backtracking simulation. But for now, I'll go forward in time, and I have some data uploaded here in the platform for the 30th. So it's like here date, then here for the start date. Okay, and the final step is select which product do we think the oil slick is. There are several options. Because oil has some spreading processes associated with it, but if we really don't know anything, we can just run it as inert. For now, I'll just say that this is a light oil and just ask the simulation to start. So all of this is happening in the cloud, so I don't have anything installed in my computer, and the data is already there to perform the simulation. I'm just going to zoom out while the simulation is running, so you can have an overview of what would happen. So the simulation has finished now. And the first thing we see here is the center of mass of the spill and the trajectory that it will take. Here on the side, we can see where the center of mass will be in each instant. And if we select it, we can see the affected area. We can also move it down here. We can see that in this case, probably the beaching will happen here further south. Another option you also have is turn on the IIS. So you can see if there are any boats that were close to the spill, or if they ran over it, and gather some more information with the by communicating with the boat. And the final data source then you can also gather here are cameras. So there are a lot of cameras nowadays, usually close to the beach. So in this case, there are quite a few. And if you select one of the camera, it will display you the imagery of the camera at the time. So here it's midnight, so you won't be seeing much. But if you come here to 7 a.m., you can see that if the spill, well, the camera angle here is a bit exaggerated, so it wouldn't actually see the spill. But if it was close by, we can very quickly gather that information. And having said that, I finish my presentation. I'll go back here to the slide, and I'll be open to your questions.
Yes, time over. Thank you. Le jury, dans ce cas-là, c'est à vous.
So the jury, it's up to you. If you have any questions, you have 5 minutes for questions and to question our challenger.
Can I, Michael Lind here, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Who are the expected stakeholders or the users of this application?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the idea of there are two users that we're trying to target. One is the port, because port they manage operations, and they don't want to be blamed for something that it's not their fault. So the slip could happen inside the port, and there they can act quickly. Or if not, they can try and backtrack it and see where it came from. I did a simulation to go forward in time, but you can do it going back in time. Of course, the oil slick will still get bigger as you go back in time because the uncertainty increases. The second target that we could have for end users would be I don't know exactly the name in English, but it's in Portuguese it's called now I have social security in mind. It's not social security. It's the people who respond in cases of disasters. So it's not the firemen, but they're called. Well, I can't remember the name. But so it would they work more on the municipal level.
Merci. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions?
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Yes, excuse me. Allow me to ask you a question, if you don't mind. On your presentation, when you presented this project, you talked about detection, but also you talked about how to fight against the spill and how to control the spill. So does this mean that your application, depending on the case, does this mean that your application enables you to come up with proposals as to how to deal with the spill? So I'd like more information on these two aspects. So on the basis of satellite imagery, you can detect the spill. And then after detecting the spill, what proposals can you come up with as to how to deal?
Bien sûr. Pardon, mon français.
Well, my French is not enough to be able to answer in detail, but detection.
Yeah.
In English. Ouais.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't quite understand full the question. So one was about if the system is running also the detection of the
I guess it would be the detection of the slick, but also how can the people interact for the end user? How can they do things? I don't know. It's about my.
Yeah. Okay. So the detection part is a completely separate process. So it happens before we run the simulation, and the detection currently is only working over SARS imagery. So this is something we are working on. And the problem we have there is that the images are sparse, so that can run over the imagery, and see if there is a detection, and there is a separate part of the interface that has this detection listed, and it points out the possible polygons where spills have happened. Interacting with the tool, so it's web-based, so it runs in the cloud. So all you need is a user account, and you can have different permissions for each user account. So you can have one user who maybe can only see the detections. You can have other user that maybe cannot see the detections, but that can only run the simulations. And you can even have a user that can only see the results of the simulation, so he cannot perform the simulations himself in case you want to publish this for the media or for someone else to see what were the results.
Allow me to ask a question. Good morning. I'm sorry, the sound seems to be cutting off. Can you hear me? Have you taken into account the different specific features of the Moroccan port, so JeFile port, for example, which is the port that launched this initiative? And if so, what were the specific features of this port? Did you take this into account in your challenge project? The system which analyzes oil spills.
I need to change back to English. My French really is not enough to do technical questions, but the system that does the dispersion of the oil is not specific to any location. So it uses a particle tracking model. So all we need is a field of currents and the wind field, and with that we can run it anywhere. The sample was done in Valencia because it's a port that we've worked with in the past, and so it was easier to do the demonstration there. But it's very easy to adapt to ports in other zones. Again, we are not tied to a specific a provider of currents and wind. We can use either locally, in either local data. If you have a local model with high resolution, we can use that, or we can go to the global models with less resolution, in case the results will be less accurate. So in terms of application, Valencia was just something that was the low-hanging fruit, and we didn't have much time to prepare. But the exact same solution is completely portable to any port in other area. Yeah.
Merci beaucoup.
Pardon.
Aquasafe.
Thank you very much. So the questions and answers session is finished now, so we have to stick to the timing. Don't hesitate to raise hand, and I'll try and get you to intervene if you want to take the floor to speak, and for you to be able to ask your questions in the chat maybe. So this is why I'd like to ask the participants to be very precise and quick when they give their presentations to allow everybody to ask questions. I have an extra question. You don't want to respect my timing, is that the case? Well, I just want to know if this solution is adapted rather for high seas, because basically you have to think about sharing responsibilities. The ports have to deal with the port area and the adjacent area, but high seas, there's another area of responsibility. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the conflict of responsibilities, or the sharing and apportioning of responsibility?
And user management system where you can, like I said, you can have the 3 levels where maybe someone can only see the detections, other can see can perform the simulations, and other may only see the results and not even do the simulations or see the detection. But you can also set the system for specific geographic areas. So you can create a user account that only has access to a given port, but doesn't have access outside of it. And the same, so you can create patches of application for the system and designate users to each area. To run it in the offshore, sometimes it's even easier because there are a lot of operational models that we can access to give us metocean conditions there, and we are also not affected by the shoreline, so usually the forecasts work also reasonably well.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this participation. And now we're going to move on to the next team, which is the JeFile team, team number 2. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you. I can see you. So let me share the screen. Just to remind you, 5 minutes presentation and 5 minutes questions and answers with the jury. Jury, could you please raise your hand if you want to speak? And I'm going to call you up one by one, and we're going to try and do this as quickly and simply as possible so that you can take the floor when you want to take the floor. So how can I put a full screen? You need to put full screen on. It's not there, it's not the subtitles.
Il faut masquer le mode présentateur.
You have to mask presenter mode, or presenter mode, sorry. So if you click on those 3 dots, you'll be able to mask presentation mode. That's it. So are the jury ready? Are you ready to listen to the JeFile presentation? So the floor is yours. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Dimitri. I'm with Mathilde, Tan, and Pierre here today, and we've been working on the over the last 30 or so days, we've been working on the problem relating to making the scanning operations more free-flowing and the weighing operations more free-flowing. So here you have the JeFile team in Paris. They say hello, but let's move quickly into the presentation. And let's move on to the port of Casablanca. And you'll see the issue here at the port of Casablanca. So the issue is with the queues in certain times of the day and certain days of the week, and this leads to a lot of disruption for the port agents and officers, but also a lot of stress for the drivers and also long waiting times and a lot of disruption in the different operations, scanning and weighing operations. So the solution that we've come up with is to have a virtual line for scanning and weighing. So some of the trucks will be located here in the port area, and this will be for immediate scanning and weighing operations. For all of those trucks which have to wait longer, they will be able to wait outside the port area or even outside of the city in a second storage or waiting area. So this means that some trucks will be able to wait directly on the delivery area, and they'll wait for their turn. And when they can only then come closer to the port when it's their turn or close to their turn. So basically, we've got 3 different solutions. First of all, we have this appointment portal. So we think that about 20% of transport companies which are well organized will be able to use this type of portal to be able to choose the date and time when they'll be going through the scanning and weighing operations. And once they've created their appointment, they'll be able to receive a QR code, and this QR code will be able to be scanned by the reception agent to make sure that they're at the right time. So basically, all the transporters, when they arrive close to the port, they'll be to see if they've booked or not. And if they haven't booked their appointment, then they'll have waiting time, which will be displayed as of 30 minutes, for example. And also there'll be people at the reception areas to the port who'll be able to guide the drivers to different waiting areas without having to leave their cabs, and they'll be able to use their mobile phone. So they'll be able to go to the temporary waiting area, or they'll be rerouted to a waiting area which is further afield, and they'll have to wait to receive an SMS which will be sent to them in their language, and they will be told to drive closer to a scanner or a weighing installation. And then the easiest way of doing this and the most comfortable and user-friendly way of doing this is a mobile app without, in fact, coming close to the port. While they're waiting, they'll be able to be called and they'll know it's their turn. So we think that we'll be able to install these kiosks for booking. So these will be in secondary waiting areas far from the city, so that by smart smartphone, people can then get a place in the queue and then wait for the SMS to tell them to come to the port. So here, for example, you're in the temporary parking area and you'll be able to receive a call to go to a specific scanner, which is the scanner which will be freed up earliest, and then you'll be able to drive to that scanner. So you won't have to physically wait before the scanner anymore. And in the ports and at the customs areas, we have an interface to view the waiting queues in real time, and you'll be able to activate and deactivate the scanners if they're not free, for example, and you'll have dynamic routing if a scanner breaks down. And then from this queue interface, we'll be able to organize direct access to Portnet to be able to view all of the documents on Portnet, and you'll be able to view the export documents and also the smart gate, so as to be able to then organize the queues and waiting times. So there's a three-step implementation process. So first of all, you have these scanners which will be virtualized, and then step two, all will join the line operations on the line system, and then final the operation per se. So basically, what are the benefits? Increase in performance of the scanning and weighing operations, also quicker reception at the port, and also we'll be able to have access to the Portnet system for all documentation and less stress for agents and drivers. So there, I've finished, and I'm at your disposal for all of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. 5 minutes on the dot. So I see there's a first question. So I don't know who raised the question first, but maybe I'm going to ask John to ask the first question.
Project, where are you expecting the revenue to come from?
Yes, sure. The business model is the installation fees for setup of all the lines and training of all the participants of the line, and to help us to start the system. And then we apply a monthly subscription to the system, unlimited, no matter the number of participants. And that will be the organizer of the line which will pay.
Merci beaucoup. J'ai une autre question de la part de Jalal Penyani.
I have another question from Jalal. Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a question. I find this extremely interesting. So there is this appointment system around Casablanca with Portnet, and here you have another solution to offer for booking. Users at Casablanca port, they use one single platform, but here you're talking about accessing two platforms, and maybe this is going to confuse users, because with this one-stop shop approach, maybe if we offer two platforms, it might be a little bit confusing. Yes, I agree with you. Two platforms, it's maybe not the best solution. On the other hand, a solution with only appointments 100% is not really that efficient, because of course some people will arrive late, or some trucks will never show up. So a virtual line will increase the welcoming or the reception capabilities. So 100% booking system, we do not recommend this. But some of these bookings can take place on the platform. We collect all the information, and then we arrange the virtual positions, and then we provide users with the possibility of finding their spot using the virtual application. Do we have another question? I have a question. You're saying that your assumption is that 20% of trucks will have an appointment. This means that 80% of trucks will not have an appointment. Don't you think that this is going to lead to a bottleneck? Because managing 80% of trucks manually when they show up, I think that this is a real constraint, especially for the port of Casablanca. Yes, welcoming 80% of these trucks for the reception agents. Of course, it's going to represent additional activity. So this is the reason why initially we believe that a lot of trucks will show up without an appointment, but in time, and this is the little graph here at the bottom, more and more will use the mobile application, and therefore wait in the line outside of the port. So wait outside of the terminal, and only 10% will just show up with no previous appointment in the long run. And this, of course, will involve the reception agents dealing with them. One last question. Can I take the floor? Now, do you think that this mobile app could be designed here in Morocco with the Moroccan truck drivers? You know that the average age is 25 years old. Truck drivers, do they have the skills necessary to make a booking or an appointment? And when trucks arrive, can you actually deal with the flows throughout the day? Because of course we do not want peaks. So it's important to have a smooth distribution throughout the day. And this line, will the waiting line be outside of the port and not at the level of the scans or the weighing stations? Because we want the trucks to be outside of the port. Well, four questions in one, so I'm going to try to answer them in the right order. So this line, of course, will be located outside. You won't have a physical line in the port. So the truck drivers will have to wait, but it's a virtual line outside of the port. And the mobile app today is in 9 languages, and we believe, well, we are going to translate it into Arabic as well. And we have some experience, 1.5 million users who've used the app without a prior training, and who were able to use the app with no problem. So we are convinced that the truck drivers in Morocco will be able to use it. And for those who do not have a smartphone or do not have the necessary training, they can actually wait in the line with the help of the agents, the reception agents, and they will receive an SMS message in their language to give them the instructions that they need. Now, I tried to raise my hand, but apparently it didn't really work out. So go ahead. First of all, congratulations for your presentation and for this idea. My question is the following one. Now, we want to avoid congestions at a port level, but congestions in the city, isn't that going to be a problem as well? Could you please repeat your question? Sorry, because the sound was really bad and we couldn't hear your question entirely. Could you please repeat your question? Now, this solution makes it possible to avoid lines at the port, but you're just shifting the problem from the port to the city, because you would have several lines in the city, and you have thousands of trucks. And of course, they're going to use up a lot of space in the city. So this is going to create traffic jams inside the city. And how can you actually overcome this difficulty? This is a very relevant question. We are turning the physical line into a virtual line, and trucks can wait wherever they want. Our piece of advice is to create a stock of trucks in the port area to join these service areas. And it's important to make sure that the trucks do not wait in line at port level or in the city center, because if they know that they will have to wait an hour, for example, we will tell them, do not stay inside the port or in the city. Thank you very much. So we're now going to move on to the next presentation. EcoWave Power.
Thank you. Can you see my
En
screen?
anglais? Yes, I do.
Yeah, in English. So
Just one second. Messieurs, dames, les jurys, si vous souhaitez suivre la présentation en français, allez sur la petite mapombe interprétation et cliquez sur français pour pouvoir suivre la présentation en français si vous le souhaitez. Okay, EcoWave, are you ready?
yes,
Perfect. Then you start when you want.
the world needs to move away from fossil fuels, not only to combat climate change, but to supply affordable energy. I'm Matthias Sigal from EcoWave Power, and I would like to tell you about an overlooked source of clean energy, wave energy. EcoWave Power developed an innovative technology to harvest the power from the ocean and sea waves. Wave energy has a lot of advantages. Most of the people in the world are living close to the coastline, so we can reduce the transmission cost. Wave energy is stable. In suitable locations, we can produce electricity 24/7. And we have a lot of it. Wave energy can supply twice the amount of electricity that the world produces today. However, in the past, most of the companies install their systems in the offshore, around 5 kilometers out from the coastline, resulting in high prices and low reliability. And that's why it has failed until now. Our solution is to bring the technology to the shore. As you can see here in the picture, we attach floaters into existing infrastructures, like piers, jetties, and breakwaters. And on land, we have a conversion unit. It works like this. The floaters moves up and down with the motion of the waves. A piston compresses hydraulic fluid, which goes into an accumulator, creating pressure that turns an hydraulic motor and turns a generator, providing clean electricity to the port. We have 17 patents and patents pending, protecting the technology. We developed a project in Jaffa Port that now we are expanding in a cooperation with the French electrical company, the EDF, who is investing in the project. In Gibraltar, we're operating the only wave power station in the world that is connected to the grid under a power purchase agreement. And we have a project in Portugal, where we are developing a project in the port of Leixões, who signed a concession agreement last April into 2020. So we are in Portugal and in Gibraltar, and we want to bring the project to Casablanca. The port of Casablanca is a really suitable location for this kind of technology. We can deploy around 20 megawatts, which has the potential to supply electricity to around 20,000 homes. The idea is to start with a pilot of between 100 kilowatts, that is the size we have in Gibraltar, and 1 megawatt. Morocco is a suitable place for wave energy, with a strong wave climate, as you can see here in the wave map, where the average wave can reach 2-meter height, with a huge support for renewable energy, thousands of kilometers of coastline, and tens of ports, where we can deploy additional projects. This will bring value to AMP because it will create clean electricity from the waves for the port, reducing the CO2 emissions. The port will become sustainable and at the forefront of innovation. So here, I'm opening to you an opportunity to make a step for a more sustainable future. We are looking to develop a pilot in the port of Casablanca, which will help the port and Morocco to become the energy transition leaders. Thank you.
You still have a few times if you wanted to. You're early, but we have plenty of time for Q&A then. Messieurs, dames, les jurys, est-ce que vous avez des questions?
Members of the jury, do you have questions that you would like to put to Matthias?
Alors, j'ai une question de la part de Philippe, de Monsieur Assou.
So Mr. Assou, so we have two raised hands. Who wants to go first? Hello. This solution will it's going to absorb energy. So here we're talking about waves. Will it have a positive impact on the size of these dikes? Can we apply them to all the protection infrastructure as well? And can it have an impact on the size of these dikes? Because a part of the energy will be absorbed by this system.
Exactly. You understood really well, like the floaters absorb the power of the waves, then the erosion in the infrastructure is lower. For example, there are some studies undertaken by a university in the United States that prove this. So it's exactly like that. The floaters absorb the power of the wave, and the impact that the infrastructure receives is lower. So an additional advantage is that we protect the infrastructure of the port.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais demander maintenant à Monsieur Isler de poser sa question.
Yes, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. Just one question on the commercial side of things. Obviously, there's a huge benefit from an environmental perspective. In terms of your existing projects in Portugal or Gibraltar, if you look at the cost of this in relation to the cost of getting energy from traditional means, is there a return on investment? In the long term, does it become cheaper or is it more expensive? Can you just tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. Well, thank you for the question. So regarding like the investment needed to develop a project of this kind in commercial scale, the investment is comparable to other renewables like solar and wind. So then we depend on the wave climate. If we deploy the system in a place with suitable waves, sometimes we can produce more energy and then the business case will be better. So it depends a lot on the wave climate, and as we show in the presentation, the wave climate in Morocco is really strong. So we assume that we can produce a significant amount of electricity. So what we do usually is to do feasibility studies to understand exactly the business case in this specific project. But in general terms, in commercial scale, it can be comparable to other renewable energy technologies in terms of economics.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais demander à Monsieur Benayoun de
Thank
poser sa
you very much. The next question.
Can I just
Mr.
ask a question?
Thank you very much for this innovative idea. I have a question that has to do with the life cycle of such equipment. And are you ready to manufacture this system in Morocco to optimize costs, including maintenance costs?
So, well, the lifetime of the system is 25 years. And then I'm glad you asked your second question because it's something that we usually talk about. Part of the system can be built locally. So we can build, for example, the floaters in Morocco. And this will not only make the project cheaper, will also create jobs in Morocco. And also, like, it's an industry that will be close to the port because we will need, for example, steel for this kind of parts, so for the floater, so it will be close to the port's ecosystem. So yes, part of the system can be built locally, and probably there are companies that close to the port that can be the ones who develop this part.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce qu'il y a une autre question de la part de...
Thank you very much. Do we have other questions? Members of the
Michael
jury?
here. Michael Lind here. I think this Matthias is a fantastic innovation from a very clear perspective that the ports of the world are basically moving towards becoming multi-dimensional hubs, transport hubs, information hubs, and also energy hubs, and that is key to manage the green conversion of the global transport system. So what is happening up north, at least, is that there is a lot of collaboration being established with local energy companies, and I wonder whether these how should I call it, physical infrastructure is also where you see new business models arriving for new partnerships in association to the port.
Yeah, 100%. Well, also we mentioned here that we have a partnership with the French energy company, the EDF, So sometimes we collaborate with those kind of companies. And regarding ports, this, like the breakwater, is an infrastructure from the port that has the goal to stop the waves. Now we are offering an opportunity to create value from that infrastructure, and not only to stop the waves, but also to create energy. I don't imagine any tenant that wants to deploy a project in the breakwater. So we are a tenant that wants to deploy a project in the breakwater and create value for the port. So definitely this will bring like additional value from the port in different aspects, not only sustainability and reducing CO2, but also in terms of adding value for the port and also for the ecosystem around the port.
Alors, j'ai une dernière question de la part de monsieur.
And one last question from Mr. Jaja, who's been trying to take the floor for some time, and it will be the last question. Thank you very much. It's a simple question. This solution, is it adapted to different types of ports? Now, for Casablanca, we have these dikes, but for this system to work, apparently we need vertical structures. So does it depend on the type of dike, or can it be adapted to different types of dikes? And what about storage? This energy is going to be produced directly, but what about the storage of this energy?
So yeah, we can deploy the system in different types of infrastructure. So one part of the feasibility studies is to work with a local civil engineering company that will help us to design the installation and to make sure that there is any risk for the port. For example, we named Gibraltar and Portugal. In Gibraltar, we have this vertical cement infrastructure. In Portugal, there is another type of infrastructure. So here we have an example of two different places where we can install it. So that is not a problem. Then the civil engineering company help us to design the installation method. And regarding the electricity, we have an inverter that then provides the electricity or to the electrical grid, to the network, or if the port wants, we can design a storage system. So we're open regarding that, but that's like apart from the wave energy power station.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation. Now we will go to the project Tech Up Scout, if they can connect. Thank you, Mathias, for your time. And moving up to the next project.
Hello, bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour. Je te laisse partager ton écran.
Good morning, everyone. If you want to share your screen with us,
Et on commence dès que tu es prêt.
and we can start.
Se préparer. Hop.
Voilà, dès que le diapo se lance, on pourrait y aller. Donc bonjour à tous.
Hello, everyone. With my colleagues from the École Centrale in Casablanca, Yassine, Abdir, Asma, we decided to work on electronic payment. The assumption is that it wasn't only a technical challenge, it was really about changing people's mindsets, because there are many different technologies available. So we really had to identify the target. And our approach was to understand the entire ecosystem, to understand the needs of all the different stakeholders, and then come up with a roadmap to make sure that people will buy into the new solution. Following an analysis of the ecosystem and an analysis of all the needs and expectations of everyone, we identified 4 types of problems. Problems that have to do with electronic payment per se, so solutions that are not adapted to the situation in Morocco, lack of access, or something that has to do with the internal process. Then some legal problems. Sometimes the infrastructure may be obsolete. So here we're talking about payment solutions, but also the port itself. And then communication and education, because there are a lot of myths that need to be dispelled. We came up with a global roadmap 3 levels and 4 phases. First of all, we had to focus on developing and implementing the solution, take into account all the legal aspects, and also adapt the solution to each port. And then the fourth phase has to do with the communication. We already talked about the 2 pillars here in the middle. We, of course, took into account the information that we collected during the interviews and the need to adapt the port. This is something that was also covered by other themes. Then we came up with a set of specifications. Here you can see the major aspects of these specifications. And we also benchmarked the solution against other solutions that exist for national or international payment and that offer this same services. But we recommend using several providers so as to enable users to opt for the solutions that they want and to avoid any technical problem. In terms of communication and education, we are going to launch some incentive programs, some awareness raising campaigns with a certain number of workshops. We will have to optimize these workshops to make the best out of these workshops. And we're going to work with a provider who is a real expert in this field. For each stakeholder, we've created a clusters that based on 4 criteria. It all depends on where they stand in relation to electronic payment solutions. So here, this involves defining a strategy from the early stages of preparation until the final stages. You can see here in orange what is ongoing and in gray what still needs to be done. This is really based on our understanding of the needs. We took into account all these criteria and we decided to create a model with a flex theme. This will enable us to continuously improve the situation because it's much easier to work on such simulations than in a real case scenario. By way of conclusion, we have already validated our assumption because we know that the problem today is not a technical problem. It has to do with people's behaviors. And we have a solution that would enable ports to develop a more profitable approach, more inclusive and more responsible from a social and corporate point of view. It's very important to guarantee a smooth transition that takes into account the concept of a change management. I wanted to thank all the speakers who helped us and spent a lot of time answering our questions and who accepted to conduct several interviews with us and who provided us with their feedback. Of course, we only had 5 minutes, so this is just a summary of our study. But if you have specific questions now, we'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Perfect timing. Now, the jury, the floor is yours now. I have a question. Thank you very much. An excellent presentation. Very interesting. Did you have the opportunity to look into potential cost reductions, especially in terms of customs clearance? Well, we have a certain number of assumptions and simulations. In 6 weeks, we didn't have time to completely finish the flex simulation, but on average today, a container stays between 7 and 8 days in the port. And this is due to payment delays. Based on our analysis, electronic payment could speed up the process. So twice as fast as certified checks, because until now, this is what the users have been using the most. But with regard to transfers, we're not going to divide the delays by 2. We're not there yet, but nonetheless, it will definitely speed up the process. Now, we know that for other types of payment, there are a lot of hidden costs. But here, when we talk about electronic payments, it really depends on the type of partners and external suppliers that we would be working with. This is Joanie, the floor is yours.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Alors, tout d'abord, je tenais à...
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank you for your work, because I know that this involved a lot of research to understand the existing system and to understand the payment methods that are currently available and the legal framework as well. Now, based on your analysis, I understood that your conclusion is that the solution should be based on communication, and it's really about driving change, and I totally agree. This is a strategy that involves changing people's behaviors. But then we have to add the fact that payment times have been shortened in time. And today we have several payment solutions that are real-time payment solutions. So we have, for example, the RGTS, or the use of credit cards, or using a mobile device. And here we're talking about a real-time transfer. And it all depends on the type of banks. Right now, we can actually have instant payment systems, but it really involves raising the awareness of users. And we have some companies that give us the possibility of certifying checks online. So sort of e-certification system. I think today it's really about communication and education. This is something that we are working on. I'd be interested in the type of approach that you're going to recommend in terms of communication and education. Your project is still a research project. It's really about defining an approach. It's more of a roadmap. It's not a solution per se. And the means and the systems are already in place. So I think we would have to look into your vision in greater detail, especially based on what you've examined. So I'd like to congratulate you for your work.
Thank you very much. It wasn't really a question, it was just a comment actually on my part. Okay, thank you very much for the comments then. It's true that everything you've said, these are things that we thought about. We did propose things on this basis, but actually, if the PPT format, obviously, and for the video, we weren't able to go further than this, but we have a detailed report if you are interested in that report, and we can send the report to anybody if you wish to receive it. So we decided that it could be sent out to the organizers of this challenge, and that's basically it. So in terms of teaching, the idea was to have a roadmap where we don't wait for the solutions to be implemented for us to start contacting the stakeholders and to try and explain what would happen with the Portnet. So the idea was to make Portnet a single window or a one-stop shop, if you like, because it's true that stakeholders have multiple channels with customs, also Portnet. People are starting to use Portnet, but very often the laboratories have their own internal processes. The handlers have their own internal processes as well. So rather than waiting for things just to happen, the idea is upstream, as soon as we start developing these solutions, we have to start teaching them and educating them, raising awareness, as it were. So we have to think about all of the solutions. You know that there are many solutions, such as the certified check, which is free, but we have logistics costs, we have time costs for that. Also, there are a lot of hidden costs in that solution, and also the level of security of electronic payments, because we've met a lot of people who thought or who believe that electronic payments are less safe than certified checks are, whereas in fact today, as you know better than I do, that we are able to achieve highly superior security levels and traceability, which is not necessarily the case with PayPal. So thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you. Questions and answers is over. We've gone over the 5-minute deadline, so I'm going to move on to the next presentation, the next team, which is automatic channel depth change alerts. So this is going to be a project which will be in English. So I invite you to go to the French channel if you want to hear the French translation. Thank you very much.
C'est l'équipe, c'est Automatic
The
Channel.
team Automatic Channel Depth Change. That's not me. Pedro, I think. Isn't it Pedro? Can you hear me?
Oh, no, it's not Pedro, it's Adelio. Adelio, can you hear me? There we go. Can you test and try your mic, because I'm not sure I'm hearing you.
Aurelio, you're on mute.
Okay, so you are hearing me now?
Yes, now I'm hearing you well. When you're ready, we're going to start the timer.
Okay, so I'm Adelio, I'm from Hidromod, and we are a consulting company in Portugal. And I will present something related with, oops. Ooh, ooh, okay. So this application that I will present is something that is part of a larger system that is focused on providing high resolution services for ports, focus on the safety and the navigation, and it gathers together different data sources from different providers, and then uses different models, algorithms, etc., to provide focused and easily easily used information for the local authorities. So, in the case of bathymetry, what we are seeking is to make a larger use when possible of satellite-derived bathymetry. And the idea is if in cases where the turbidity allows to have a good survey of what is happening, we can have often a lot of often surveys of the bottom, and to have a continuous update of the depth in the area. And what we are trying for the moment is to try to we are doing it to kind of use of these. One is to try to correlate the bathymetric changes in cases where they are very fast, like it happens in some Moroccan ports in the Atlantic coast with the storms. So if it's possible to make some kind of correlation, it would be also possible to set up some kind of alert system in terms of upcoming fast changes. And the other use is in ports where we have to dredge. It's to implement these dynamic underkill clearance systems. It's something that, in this case, something that we are used to do, and it's in most cases, bathymetry is still surveyed by traditional methods. That means the ports goes there every 2 months or every 3 months and make a survey. But with the satellite, this will allow us to improve a lot the system. So in the case of the alert warnings, the goal is to have a system capable to have systematic bathymetric surveys, and then to use some kind of intelligence or an algorithm to correlate this with the meteorographic data that we have, and may, one way or another, allow us to understand in which conditions the bathymetry suffers sudden changes. And this is the goal. We have nowadays a lot of high resolution models running for waves and currents. And in this case, it was something that we have made in Portugal with some bathymetric derived bathymetries. It worked quite well. The water is not so turbid, and the results are quite good. And then we can try to check if we can make this kind of correlations. And the other use is this navigation dynamic underkill clearance in order to try to optimize the dredging effort. That means if we know better the depths and we have enough data like the forecasts of the waves and wind to foresee or to forecast also the ship movements, we can reduce the safety margin towards the bottom, and by that way reduce a little bit a little bit or a lot. It depends how much you dredge, of course. But in cases, for instance, we are doing it in Santos in Brazil, the return of investment is huge in terms of the dredging effort. So in this case, if we have the ship movement and the waves and the good knowledge of depth, we can improve a lot the dredging effort. So just to conclude, what we are offering, it's a unique access point to high resolution, accurate and high resolution meteorologic and oceanographic forecasts. And we are trying to provide alerts about the potential relevant bathymetric changes and this the support to channel dredging optimization with these kind of DUC systems. I don't know if I'm close to 5 minutes or not, but
time is over.
Okay, okay.
Now it's up to question and answers. Messieurs, dames, les jurys, si vous avez des questions, la parole est à vous.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. So I've got a first question it's Jalal. Yes, thank you very much for this presentation, which is extremely important. In fact, it's the same question that I put right from the start. What are the specific features of the Moroccan ecosystem that you've taken into account in your project, the JeFile port, which launched this challenge? Have you analyzed the specific feature of the port and also the seabed in the port around? Well, it's generic. It's a generic system, so this means it can be used anywhere. But the problem with the bathymetric surveys with using satellite imagery is that it depends on the turbidity of the water. But now you know that we have, if it's not possible to have satellite readings, then we can make local surveys. And we can implement a more economical solution, but it's true that the Moroccan ports do surveys, let's say, every month. So we could optimize this, but in cases where satellites work well, it's an advantage as well to have this type of system. It doesn't really depend on any specific port. It depends on the meteorological conditions. There are places where it works well. There are places where it may vary. But the idea of having this kind of alert system, which enables us to predict changes and to optimize dredging operations, it's a lot more versatile. And the idea is to use other sources of data and not just satellite data. I hope my French was up to par. You made a great effort. Thank you very much for that. Are there any other questions in the jury? Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this presentation. As far as I'm concerned, I have a few questions for you. The first question, as you said quite clearly, that we depend largely on the sources of information, satellite information, also the frequency and the regularity of these satellite images so as to be able to predict and extract data on the seabed. Another question concerns precision and accuracy, because that's what we're looking for. We need optimal and accurate bathymetric data. So how can you couple this with predicted bathymetric readings and the physical parameters, which is silting of ports? Is it swell? Is it current? Or is it a combination of all of these different factors and all these hydrodynamic factors? And the last question is, if the solution that you're proposing is a solution which will be limited to an alert system, or will it be a solution that will enable us to have permanent bathymetric readings? So the ultimate objective is to have real-time bathymetry and bathymetric readings for the port operators, because they need this information on a permanent basis. So bathymetric changes, quite honestly, the first reason that causes this is a swell. Along this type of coastline, the swell is really the main lead to these bathymetric changes, and which carries silt into the ports and leads to silting. The system has been designed to be fully operational. So what we're offering here is forecasts for 5 to 7 days. So we will have conditions, oceanographical conditions, and saline levels, which can cause a problem as well in some cases. So there is, in some ports I've seen in Morocco, where there can be some extremely abrupt changes in the seabed, depending on if there's been a storm or not, for example. So it's important to know and to be able to predict this. So we have to take time to build up knowledge, but based on data, we can predict. And if there are no swift bathymetric changes, then we can predict normal evolution over a period of 1 month, for example. And we can maintain a high level of accuracy. And this will enable us to optimize the dredging operations, for example, and we will be able to get a good return on it. Thank you very much. So the questions and answers time is over now. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm going to move on to the next team. So it's the penultimate team. There are 2 teams left. So I'd like to ask Port Tech Payment to join me on stage and to share your screen and to start when you're ready. So is it okay for you, ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury? Are you able to score the projects? Is everything going well? I hope so, at least. So now it's your turn. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Okay, perfect. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So allow me to present our project, which is called Port Tech Payment. So this is a solution which draws on behavioral technology and cognitive technology, but also it's based on cognitive science. Now, the objective of this challenge is as follows. How are we going to encourage customers to use electronic payment methods in an ecosystem which is dominated by conventional payment means? Now, our vision is based on behavioral patterns, and you know that this is a question of culture and mindset. So we've tried to introduce the concept of digital nudging by working on design and the user-friendliness of these payment systems. So the main objective is to guide users towards using these instantaneous payment methods, using this chatbot, this online chatbot, which will interact with the user. And the aim is then to guide it towards these different payment choices. So the user will receive a set of messages either sent by SMS or WhatsApp, and the aim is to guide them and to encourage them to make the right choice. So also the idea is to make this experience more user-friendly with graphic man-machine human interface. So if the user opts for conventional payment, they still can use conventional payment, but the system will intervene to try and influence the user so as to display different messages. So this is a trick that we use basically to encourage them to use instantaneous payments. So the aim is to show them that conventional payments will take several days to be confirmed. So obviously we'll leave them the final choice. It's up to them finally to decide how they want to pay. But if the user decides to still make a conventional payment, then the idea is to collect explanations through the chatbot, and then this will feed another knowledge base. So the specific feature of this solution is that it's easily integratable. It can be integrated with the Portnet platform, and we have an exchange interface with the user. So this then transmits the request to the bot, and then the bot will restore the results to the user. So the bot will answer the questions put by the user. So this will be a pre-configured decision-making channel, and they will provide answers to a series of pre-established questions. And it's a true discussion between the bot and the user. So this is an interactive system. Now, the bot can send a set of messages to users. It can send SMSs or WhatsApp or email messages. And the idea is really to guide them to different payment channels. And then we will provide answers based on the business services and the IT services through what we call APIs. So we use artificial intelligence, which is what we call markup language. So this is XML language, which can be used to manage bot knowledge. It's open source and it's easy to integrate in a Java environment. And obviously it's easy to integrate with the Portnet platform. So what are the advantages? Well, this is a solution which presents a whole host of benefits: availability, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, interoperability, instantaneous financial transactions, but also other benefits and advantages such as transparency. So also it's a solution which is adapted to SMEs and multinational companies. So here, if you're interested, you can take a look at our prototype. Here you have the address on the page. Thank you very much for your attention. Great. Thank you very much, Hakim. You were able to stick to the timing. Congratulations. So I can see that I've got a question from Jala. And also I can see Mr. Tabul has joined us. So Jal, you have the floor. Yes, thank you very much. So let me start by congratulating Hakim for all of the efforts made in this project. Obviously, it's not very visible in the presentation, but it's a lot of work went into this through the questionnaire and all of the interviews and all of the work done to understand the system and the behavioral usages. So congratulations for the work that you've done on this. And I can see the interest compared with the other project, which was presented by the Central School of Casablanca students. So the two projects were quite complementary. The idea is really to help guide people towards instantaneous payments. So it wasn't a question, it was just a comment to say congratulations. Thank you very much. Now let me hand over to Mr. Darboul, who had a question. Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. I'm a bit dubious, to be honest with you. You say that it's a behavioral issue. and that we have to change people's mindset and behavior. And at the same time, you're proposing a chatbot. So it's just a robot or an IT system, if you like, to facilitate. Now, if somebody's very reluctant to using electronic payment, I don't see why what you're proposing here is going to change their behavior, because they'll only be able to communicate with a chatbot. Don't you think that your proposal is a bit out of sync with this problem, which you say is above all a behavioral issue? No, I don't agree with you, because I think this is a project which is based on behavioral science. So the idea is to try and understand the cognitive biases at play, and also it includes technical solutions to guide customers. So it's a package where you find not only the nudge technique. Now, if you don't know the nudge technique, the aim of a nudge technique is to be a soft influence, if you like, for those people who are reluctant. And this has been experimented with in a lot of countries. And these experiences and experiments have been very successful, particularly in the US. And they have been able to change consumer behavior. And also they've had an influence on user to guide them. Okay, well, if the moderator will allow me, then I'd like to just expand on my question. Now, somebody who's reluctant to electronic payment is going to be reluctant to use artificial intelligence technology if they don't know or like using computers. It seems to be a bit contradictory to propose a solution which is based on the use of computers. So what would encourage them to use or adopt your solution? Well, answer to that, I don't think it's really about command or computer literacy. About 68% of the people we interviewed are in favor of using technology. So I'm talking about the port ecosystem. I'm not talking about other stakeholders. I'm just talking about importers, exporters, freight forwarders, handlers. So even in businesses today, I don't think there are people who work in businesses who don't have to use a mobile phone or a smartphone, for example. So this is what we all use today to exchange. So I don't think there are any obstacles to the take-up of this technology. It's a solution. Okay, thank you very much for this. I think before we had John Dutton who had a question. Yes, thank you very much, Hakim, and congratulations for this work. I just wanted to ask you if you had any comments on the sustainability and the community aspect of this, because this is something we're going to be talking about with the judges. I didn't really see this in your presentation. So what studies have you carried out on this point? Okay, now with regard to these studies, we've carried out a 2-year study. Before even dealing with this issue, we did run a survey with the target operators. So it was a survey that we organized via the Portnet platform. So we collected the answers, and I should say about 70% of the answers were mainly from importers. And the results were communicated in the project, and there is a mass use of banking systems, contrary to what we would have thought, because we thought people tended to pay mainly in cash, but there is really a tendency towards bank transfers. But the problem posed today is that there are too many intermediaries. So, for example, if you pay by a bank card, then you have to go via the intermediary of the bank, and this doesn't make sense because there are extra costs for the user. So I don't see the point of going a user, so sorry, an intermediary. So it's better to go beneficiaries bank. You talked about the other results of our survey. So there's a lot of determination and motivation. And I was very impressed because people really do want to move more towards instantaneous payment and electronic wallets. And what about the environmental aspects? I didn't really grasp that. Well, when we talk about the environmental aspects, we tend to talk about electronic solutions. So obviously this is going to be ecological. So it's going to be environmentally friendly. It's going to can do without checks, but it's not just checks. In fact, it's all of these indirect advantages, mobility, avoiding people having to move around, because obviously mobility is environmentally unfriendly in a lot of cases. So it's a solution. Thank you very much. Now we're going to, I know there were more questions, but we have to stick to the timing for all of the speakers. So Mr. Mantrash and Mr. Tari, you're going to be the first to be able to ask your questions about the last project. So I'd like to thank Hakim, and now I'm going to hand over to the last team, which is the LiaTrust team.
Now, can you hear me and see me? Yes, we can. And can you see my presentation? No, we can't. I'd like to share this with you now. Now, can you switch off your camera because the sound isn't that great? It might be better if you switch off your camera. So I hope that you can hear us. So the sound is not perfect, but we will give you the floor nonetheless. My name is Mohammed, and we are the LiaTrust team. And for several weeks now, we've been focusing on the question of certificate of origin. The certificate of origin is a document that enables you to certify the origin of goods. And of course, this is essential for any given transaction. And it's important to be able to manage these certificates to make international trade smoother. We know that managing these certificates is extremely complex, and for several reasons. Because of course we want to make sure that everyone recognizes these digital certificates in a B2B and B2C environment. We know that in many cases, both parties do not entirely trust each other. So the solution has to be scalable, because it is important to be able to manage all transactions, and it has to be easy to implement and easy to adopt, because we know that we are dealing with different organizations or entities that may not have the same level of maturity. We've identified four pillars. The first one is simplification. Here again, it's important to simplify the issuance of these certificates. So we're talking about the integration of LiaTrust to the one-stop shop. And the idea is to be able to smoothen the improvement procedure, so as to make it easier to issue a certificate. And of course, this has to be a solution that does not represent too much work for all the different players. Then we have to identify secure channels to guarantee the authenticity, the integrity, and the confidentiality of data. And then a third pillar, a distributed registry, because here we're talking about B2B or B2G. It is important to identify the right algorithms. So here we've identified a certain number of solutions: Hyperledger Fabric, Hyperledger Sawtooth. It's important to be able to make the best use of state-of-the-art technologies with cloud-based solutions. So there are three major steps. The first one is creating your wallet. So this is decentralized. It is based on a standard, the W3C. It's called the DID. But it's also very important to be able to take into account existing identities, especially in the one-stop shop system. So exporters will have to connect to the platform with their wallet, and they can sign the digital certificate, and then at back-end level, the data will be stored in a shared registry. And then the fourth step has to do with control. The idea is to be able to verify the signature, verify the authenticity of this signature, and to make sure that it hasn't been tampered with, in order to implement this project. We're talking about an 8-month roadmap with 11 sprints, as we call them, of 3 weeks each. So the first 3 weeks will involve defining the MDP, setting up the teams, and also focus on the technological enablers. We are a team based in Morocco, so we have representatives in Rabat, in Casablanca, and in Paris. And we will be extremely happy to work with the entire ecosystem, the customs, the ANP, in order to improve the existing processes. Thank you very much. So let's move on to the Q&A session now with the members of the jury. Now the floor is yours, Mr. Montrage.
Pour celui-là, bien entendu, bon, je vois que il a proposé un process.
Now, the process that you are suggesting is really about the traceability and the authentication of the certificate of origin. But those countries of importation, how will they be able to use the system? Thank you. Now, this digital solution is an end-to-end solution. Now, it also involves the exporting, both the exporting country and the importing country. Sorry, the sound is really very poor. We're doing our best. The idea is that you be able to come up with a solution that enable us to opt for digital solutions, because we want to be able to sell, so to speak, this solution from end to end. And governance is important when dealing with such products. Thank you very much.
Vous êtes peut-être en mute.
Now, we can't hear you. I think that your mic is still on mute. Okay, I think you can hear me now. Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a certain number of questions that I wanted to share with you. And in your presentation, I really didn't find the information I was looking for to understand how things are going to work out, because the certificate of origin is issued by the Moroccan customs authorities. You're talking about an operator, a signature, but it is the customs authorities that will sign the certificate of origin, with their stamp, which is recognized in the country of import. So this is basically how it works. The problem is that this certificate is not issued or used from one customs authority to another. It's issued by the customs authority, but then it is sent by the operator. So it requires a certain level of trust to make sure that the certificate hasn't been tampered with. But the problem is the certificate is not sent from one government to another. It's sent from one government, one customs authority to an operator, and then to an operator in another country. So the question of verifying the authenticity of the certificate is of utmost importance, where the goods will be sent to. Thank you very much. The idea is to be able to rely on the authorization or the system that is in place to approve the certificate in the country of origin. And when the transaction takes place, we're supposed to have all the information that we need to issue the certificate of origin. And then there are two options. If the export has to add additional information, well, they can use that platform to add additional information. If the customs authorities can sign the certificate, and then in the country of destination, the signatures can be verified just to make sure that the document hasn't been tampered with. These are different scenarios that are made possible via this solution. So who will play the role of a trusted provider? In some cases, self-certification is also something that could be considered, but it's really about issuing a certificate, controlling all the information, signing the certificate. Could we envisage a system of self-certification, or does this involve going through all the different stakeholders? So the process is quite flexible in that respect. So one last question, because then the jury will have to vote. Unfortunately, we can't hear the speaker.
C'est bon?
Oui, là, c'est bon. Super.
D'accord. Je souhaitais effectivement poser une question tout à l'heure.
I have a question concerning dredging operations. I don't know if I can ask my question now. Now, you've been talking about an end-to-end process to provide all the information necessary. I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but as far as I'm concerned, in some cases, the local customs authorities did not understand why we were submitting a certificate of origin issued by a European country in electronic form, and they kept demanding a paper certificate with a stamp, with a signature. So I think it also involves a lot of communication in Casablanca, it's one of the ports, but we also have to raise the awareness of other ports in Morocco. So we know that this will involve a lot of work to make sure that the people will actually buy into these digital solutions. Now, such a digital solutions it doesn't mean that we can't actually use the paper certificates at the same time, but we can have a hybrid system. We can use the QR codes and so on, so we can actually mix the two. Yes, I remember on the paper certificate, there was a QR code on it, but the customs authorities, well, they didn't know what to do with it and they didn't want to accept it.
Merci à vous tous.
Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you. Now I have a question. Well, I was the first one to raise my hand, but I wasn't given the possibility of taking the floor. I have a clarification that I need concerning the user experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about the user path, the user experience? And then do you have a prototype? That's something that wasn't mentioned in your presentation. I can start with the second question. What we have is a prototype without the back end technology. We know that, for example, some technologies, for example, blockchain and so on, are very complex, so we have to be very careful. So we really focused on the back end, and we have a wireframe prototype. Concerning the user experience now, the exporting entity who declared the transaction should be able to enter all the information concerning the certificate of origin if necessary. And then based on that, the customs authorities can sign this information. And then the customs authorities in the country of destination can verify the signature. But of course, it's very important to have a full traceability of the entire process. Thank you very much, Mohamed. So that was the last question. I'm going to ask the members of the jury now to switch it to the other Zoom link. So we are running a bit late, 15 minutes late, so it's not really that bad. So please stay connected. We're going to show you some videos, and we will come back in about half an hour to announce the winners, and then we'll move on to the closing ceremony. So thank you very much, and so we will meet again in about half an hour.
Are you all back? Can you hear me? Yes, absolutely loud and clear. So that's it. I think you can hear the English translation again. So welcome back. So this is it now after the deliberation. It took a bit of time, so I hope you're all impatient. I know you're all impatient to find out who has won. So let's move on. So the announcement of the prize winners. Are you ready? So we wanted to add a bit of suspense because the jury had some difficulty in trying to decide who to win. So we've added something. We've added the jury's favorite prize. So this is for a particular team. I'm not sure if one of the members of the jury, maybe Mrs. Daraki or Tarek, maybe you'd like to explain what this prize is all about. Why this jury prize? One of you maybe, could you maybe take the floor to talk about this project, which has led to deciding to add an extra prize? Well, maybe can I explain what this is all about? It's, well, we were completely taken aback by this team, by its project. And they really did propose a solution which is adapted to the context and tailor-made to suit the challenge. I think they really did understand the challenge, and they proposed an original solution, which is not just a technological solution. So we really did appreciate that, and we'd really like to applaud them. It's the students from the Central Polytechnic School. So congratulations to the team, but all the teams is what I'd like to congratulate, but particularly this one. Congratulations. So take up Scout. So if you're still connected, would you like to say a few words? Congratulations for this jury's favorite prize. Thank you very much for your work.
Allô?
Hello.
Oui. Ah, pardon.
So hello, Jeremy, once again.
Désolé, j'ai mon équipe qui
Sorry,
m'appelle
I've
en
got
même
my
temps,
whole
du
team
coup.
calling me, so my phone's going wild here, you can see.
Franchement, ça nous fait énormément plaisir,
So we're
mais voilà
delighted,
qu'on
absolutely
aurait
delighted to
pu,
have this
qu'on ait
prize.
même poussé le jury
And
à rajouter un prix pour nous,
the
bah,
fact that you've added an extra prize just
hyper
for us, it's
valorisant.
wonderful.
Du coup,
It's
d'être
great
arrivé
for
là.
us. So
On
thank you
tenait
so
aussi, voilà,
much.
on n'avait pas eu pour
Also,
les 5
we
minutes, mais voilà, on
didn't,
avait aussi été
well, we
pas
only
mal
had 5
impressionnés
minutes,
par
but
les autres
we were
projets,
really very
notamment les
impressed by
projets
the
qui
other
avaient joué le
projects,
jeu,
particularly
vraiment
those
passer
projects
6
that
semaines
really
sur un projet et
followed
pas
the
ramener
rules
un
of the
petit
game,
publisher.
spending 6 weeks on a
Et du coup,
project
voilà,
and
nous, on tenait aussi
presenting
à
this final
remercier. Donc,
project.
on
So
a
we'd
déjà fait
like
toutes les
to
personnes qui nous avaient donné
thank all of those
aussi
people
pas
who
mal
gave
notre
their
école,
time,
qui nous a
also our school who
encouragés
gave
à
a lot of time
participer
and encouraged us to take
à cette compétition.
part
Donc,
in
l'école
this
centrale
competition.
Casablanca qui
So
nous a encouragés
the
à
central
participer et
school in
nous
Casablanca,
a
so the
voilà,
whole team of
accompagnés
the
tout
school
au long.
took
On a
part, and
vraiment, c'est aussi une validation
it
pour nous parce qu'on a
was
vraiment utilisé voilà, ce qu'on a appris dans
great for
notre
us.
école
We were
comme
able
approche
to free up
d'ingénieur
our
et on voit
imaginations,
que
and we were able to
c'est
adapt
une
the
bonne
approach
chose.
that we
On
learned in
nous apprend des bonnes
engineering
choses
studies. So we learned a
on
lot
est sur la bonne voie pour la
in this
suite.
challenge, and I think we're really on the right track for the future. Thank you very much, and congratulations once again. Could I say a few words? Yes, go ahead. Congratulations to the École Centrale. As Thérèse was saying, this is really the jury's favorite prize for students and also their teachers. Even if it's not a technological solution as such, or an innovative solution, it takes account of the environment and the port ecosystem that we see on a daily basis. So I think that's very important. It's more of an approach really to support change and the change in mindset of a lot of stakeholders in this ports ecosystem. And this is why we decided to add this extra jury's favorite prize. Thank you very much, Mrs. Laraki. Are you ready? Are you ready? So we are going to now move on to the grand prize. There are 3 prizes, in fact. So the jury has deliberated. We've taken time to deliberate. So the 3 winners of this first Smart Port Challenge are going to be shown at the same time on the same slide. So I don't know if any of the members of the jury would like a few words, but anyway, congratulations to these first prize winners of the Smart Port Challenge 2020. So we're delighted to award these prizes to Port Tech Payments, Aquasafe and JeFile. So thank you, all 3 of you. Thank you for winning the first Smart Port Challenge prize, and congratulations to all of you for all of your work. I don't know if one of the jury members would like to say a few words about some of these projects. Well, I've had the opportunity to work with a few of you, but unfortunately not with all of you. And I'm not necessarily very well versed in a lot of these subjects, but for those subjects that I do know well, I worked with you, and you made an enormous effort backstage, in the sidelines over the last few weeks. And all of this work done by these people who devoted themselves to understanding these sometimes very complex problems, who were in tune with the ecosystem to understand the ecosystem more. And in PortTech's payment case, for example, they even did their own investigation to understand the subjects and to analyze the situation and to try and propose the solutions which fit in fully with our port ecosystem. So thank you very much. So I'd like to really congratulate the winners. Obviously, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much. Now, would Philip, Michael, John, or Mrs. Chakri, or any other jury member like to say a few words? Would you like to add a few comments?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think personally it's absolutely fascinating to see how these efforts of open innovation by inviting the crowd is really going to push towards the upgrade of the maritime ecosystem. I think this is fantastic, and all of these three winners, since they are really addressing the challenges of tomorrow for the development of the maritime ecosystem. And I am very happy to see that Morocco is taking this prime moving position of running these kind of events. So thanks a lot to all of you.
Go ahead, Mr. Shakri. I know you wanted to take the floor. Yes, thank you very much.
I was very impressed by the level of, ingenuity, curiosity, and the solutions, that were presented, and especially, that the key focus was really on the mindset. Moroccans and those that have participated have definitely shown that they, have the technical skills, and they really, focused on the mindsets and on the clients, the customer. So most of the solutions were customer centric, and I think that's key. So to keep that in mind, going forward.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. What about the prize winners? Mr. Tai, you want to say a few words?
Merci Adélaïde. Merci.
Thank you very much, Adelaide. Thank you. I would really like to join in with my fellow jury members and really applaud you. And also, I'd like to say that this is the first hackathon we've organized, and we have really seen some extremely high-level solutions, and I'm sure that the second one is going to be even harder because you've already set the sights so high with this one. And I really would like to congratulate the École Centrale Engineering School for the work done. So congratulations, and congratulations to the three prize winners. It's largely deserved, and well done for being on the podium. And I'm really delighted to have taken part in this hackathon. It's the first of its kind, and I think this will start a new page in our history. So thank you very much, and it's been great. We're really talking about innovation, and we've achieved such a high level of innovation. So thank you once again, and thank you for participating. Thank you very much. Would one of the teams like to say a few words very quickly? Adelaide, if you allow me, this is something I'd forgotten, but everybody won, in fact. Even the projects which were not finalists and final prize winners, all of these projects were magnificent, and we're going to capitalize on this in our ecosystem. So you've made so much effort, and we had to choose some winners. It was very difficult for us to choose and to separate you. So everybody's a winner, really. All these ideas are innovative, and they're all very complementary, and they all fit in so well with the port ecosystem, and it's a very rich ecosystem. So congratulations to all of you, even those of you who are not on the final podium. Yes, thank you very much for having said this. You're quite right. All of the projects that were submitted were studied in great detail by all of the jury members, and there's no exclusion that in future they might contact you, even if you weren't among the final prize winners. So all of these projects are studied by all of the partners and all of the sponsors of this event. So you might be contacted in future. So do I have any one of the winners of this first Smart Port Challenge who'd like to say a few words? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next part.
Hello, Adelaide. Merci beaucoup to everyone. We are really happy with this, and we are really looking forward to bring our wave energy technology to Morocco. As we said in the pitch, this can reduce the CO2 emissions and continue the fight against climate change. So thank you for coming with us in this fight, and we really look forward for the next steps.
Thank you. Est-ce que Port Tech Payments ou JeFile est encore connecté ou est-ce que je
Port Tech Payments, are you still connected, or JeFile, are you still connected? Yes, we're here. All of the team is here. We're absolutely thrilled. Thank you. We're all there. So thank you to the experts. Thank you for having accompanied us with the more than 15 appointments. We're extremely excited to be starting the first pilot in the port. And finally, you with us, Port Tech Payments, and then we'll have seen everybody. I'm not sure if Hakim is still with us. I think his mic's cut off. Well, can you hear us? Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, thank you very much. We're delighted among the prize winners of this challenge. So this is really a great acknowledgement of our efforts, and I think it's going to push us to go further in terms of innovation and research. And it's really a great helping hand for our team. So we have a very complementary project with research, and also there's all of the technical aspects to this project that we worked on. So we have colleagues who work a lot more on the technical architecture, but we're really delighted with our colleagues to have been chosen among the winners of this competition. So also I'd like to thank the entire PortNet team that's worked so hard to support us right through this hackathon with answering our surveys and investigations. So thank you very much, and good luck to everybody for the future. Yes, thank you very much to all the project winners of this first Smart Port Challenge. And now I'd like to hand over to Mrs. Nadia Laraki, who's going to have the difficult task of closing the first Smart Port Challenge. You have the floor. First of all, the first words that come to mind are thank you, Adelaide. Thank you. Obviously, what we're seeing today is really the cherry on the cake. It's really been a lot of work to arrive at this state, and also there's been all of this work done upstream that you've helped us with, and this is what's enabled us to organize this event. It's been a long adventure, but at the end of the day, we've had some wonderful results, and these prize winners at the final home straight. So I'd like to thank all of the participants, and more particularly the challengers, but also we really would like to thank all those people who've worked behind the scenes that we haven't even met, and these people who've been instrumental in organizing this event. So we're so proud of everybody who's taken part in the organization of this first hackathon. And I hope it won't be the last of its kind. I hope there'll be many more. I hope that this marks the start of a long adventure for the future. So I can't name everybody because I'd forget somebody. So I'd just like to thank the whole organization, you, everybody. So thank you to the National Ports Agency team, the PortNet team, to all of the port ecosystem team, which has spared no efforts to make this happen. It's wonderful when you think about things on paper and you think about, wow, 73 challenges, 73 projects, plus the mentors, plus all of these meetings that have taken place, all of these webinars that have taken place. So it looks good on paper, but it's not that easy to put into practice. So we at the National Ports Agency, and obviously as federator and supporter of the entire ports ecosystem, we can only be delighted with this result. So congratulations to the 4 finalists, because it's not just 3, in fact, in actual fact, there are 4 finalists. So I think all 4 of them would deserve to be on the podium, but in any event, the favorite prize, the jury favorite prize, is a very special one, to be honest with you. And in fact, we need to work in tandem. We need solutions which are supported. Sorry, I forgot the name of electronic payments, and we need to work with academia. We need to work on innovation which is buoyed by the young generations, and I hope they have a bright future ahead of them. And the idea is really to promote electronic payments. Obviously, the solutions exist, but the most important thing is really to ensure the take-up of electronic payments, whatever the solution is. So this is really a big challenge for the future, and it's a challenge that we have to rise to. We haven't risen to it yet. We're still not there. And, you know, it's a question of trust. A lot of people trust bank transfers and checks, and sometimes even cash. And it's all about a change of mindset. We really have to believe in electronic payments. We have to convince people that the best solution is electronic payments via the different channels that exist, whatever that channel might be. So congratulations to all of you, and also congratulations to the Eco Wave Power team. And don't forget, we've been working on sustainable development for many years, and to be able to develop wave power and use the currents and the swell, this is wonderful. We've been working on it for 3 years now. So if we are able to set up a pilot project, this is wonderful for us. So thanks again. So I don't really, well, words fail me, but I'd really like to thank you all for having taken part in this first experiment or experience, however you see it. So as we've already said, it's really been extremely high level. You've set the sights very high for the future. I don't know what it's going to be like next year in any event, but let's meet next year, and I hope we'll have more sponsors, more prizes, and more innovation. Thank you all. Thank you very much, Mrs. Laraki. And I should say that I've been told not to say next year, 2021. So the second edition is this year already. We're already there. So 2021, so the end of 2021, inshallah. What will be, will be. We'll be there to support all of the challenges. And thank you very much for everything that you've done. And thank you, Adelaide. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all of you. So we're going to close this first Smart Port Challenge 2020. Thank you very much, Mrs. Laraki. Thank you for having announced the future. So for the second edition, thank you very much. And let's meet again soon. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you very much.